Jackson, Kenner, Elliott, Rue, and Jacob Tissett with you here. Casey McAllister in the producer chair. Guys, happy Friday. How are we today?
I'm good. I feel great. What a special day it is here at Friday morning at Chatterbox HQ.
It was a little chilly this morning.
Was chilly.
A little chilly.
Was chilly.
I asked Casey yesterday when we were leaving, I said, is it going to get cold again? We're like, I don't know. It's been nice the last couple of days. Coming today, it's 30-something. I mean, it's, not great.
Listen, I'll take it. Is it supposed to get warmer this weekend?
I really don't care whether it gets warm or stays cold. I would like it to stay, though.
As long as
Stop going up and down.
Yeah,
I hate that.
It's supposed to be 45 on tomorrow. 45 tomorrow,
I'll take that.
37 Superbowl Sunday. And then it stays cold for a while.
Not bad. And again, we're going to talk Super Bowl today. Keith Byars, 13 years in the NFL, played in the Super Bowl with the Patriots against Brett Favre and the Packers back in the day. We'll chat with him coming up here in a bit. We'll get to, there's headlines, of course. We're going to push that back just a bit because we're just going to dive right into the deep end. We're just going to start reacting right away to the NFL awards. Came out last night. I didn't think it would be a big surprise that Josh Allen won MVP, but that seems to be what everyone is talking about. Not so much that Josh Allen won MVP, but the fact that that Lamar Jackson didn't win the MVP. We're going to talk about Joe Burrow and his spot, of course, in the MVP and where he finished there. Jamar Chase even getting some votes. How about that? There's a lot to take away from last night, but the biggest takeaway for you guys was what last night? I'm assuming it's the MVP and I guess the drama there. Lamar Jackson should have won it. Where are you guys at with the MVP finish last night?
I don't think that was my most talked about award last night. I would say I would say I was talking about the other ones. The MVP, I'm not shocked by. It's pretty much a coin flip. I mean, both of those guys deserved it. If you would have told me either one of them won, I would have been okay with it. Like it's not one thing. Like if I was a fan of the Ravens, yeah, I'd be upset. If I was a fan with the Bills and Lamar won it, I'd be upset. So it's just one of those things where if you were a fan of one of those guys, you're going to be mad no matter who won. I completely understand Josh Allen. I think Josh Allen, with what he did with that team, I still don't believe that defense is as good as it could possibly be. He didn't have a ton of weapons to throw to. I still think James Cook is regarded as not a top 10 running back, when in fact he is, but I still think the public perception around Josh Allen is that there was nobody on his roster. And when you have that public perception that you are the one single-handedly carrying that team, that's where the difference is. I think the tiebreaker was Lamar Jackson had Derrick Henry to work with. Who did Josh Allen? Again, I know James Cook's fantastic, but do the voters think that? And that's where I think the tiebreaker came in.
I was absolutely shocked. I thought it should have been Lamar. I thought it was going to be Lamar. I don't know how the 50 people that a couple weeks ago said Lamar had a better season than Josh Allen in AP voting for the teams said that now they changed their mind and said Josh Allen had a better year than Lamar. So I don't really know how that worked out. I think that AP, first team, all AP team or whatever should always go with the MVP, especially in a quarterback conversation. It's the same people voting on it. I don't understand how that happened. I thought it absolutely should have been Lamar, but I thought last year should have been Josh. So If we just agree to change the years on those, we'll be okay in the history books.
That's right.
Yeah, last year, Lamar's numbers, that was a very year for Lamar. If you go back and look at those numbers, it's amazing to me that he was able to pull out that MVP. But again, not a lot of great candidates last year. Josh Allen having a very good year, but of course it just felt like the Bills were kind of chaotic throughout that season, which led to, of course, Stephon Diggs leaving and all of that. So I was curious how the voting worked for the MVP. So the AP, it's not AP voters technically. The AP calculates the score. So there's 50 voters for this MVP or for the MVP, I guess. And they rank their MVP choices from first to fifth. And how the AP ranks these or scores it is for a first place vote, you get 10 points. Second place, you get 5. Third place, 3 points. Fourth place, 2 points. Fifth place, 1 point. And then, of course, they calculate all those. And that's how you get to the final scores for those. So the AP, again, adding all that up. And I guess the voters there, whatever. But interesting, like Dan Orlovsky's a voter, Teddy Bruschi's a voter, Tom Brady's a voter, Tony Dungy's a voter. These are some of the bigger names that have votes and that got to cast votes yesterday as well. But I thought that was just an interesting thing of how they kind of go about it. But the other thing, too, is like you said, Jacob, how they're saying Lamar Jackson, the best offensive player, but yet not the MVP at the same time. It was just kind of a weird, I don't know, kind of collided together a little bit.
I saw a lot of people drawing the comparison, and I think it hits the nail on the head for me. This is the Joel Embiid MVP. This is Jokic won back-to-back, and they wanted to change it up. They gave it to Embiid. This is what it feels like to me here. Again, Josh Allen, he had an MVP season. People just changed their mind in 2 weeks.
I never understand either what the definition of these awards are. Is MVP the best player, or is MVP like the biggest story, and he's leading his team because he's the only great player on that roster? Like I still don't know, because they certainly don't use that logic for the other awards. Like Defensive Player of the Year, that award was given out to somebody who helped his team make the playoffs. That's why
that award was given out as a punish the Bengals for not making the playoffs.
That's what I'm saying. Like these awards are given out for the wrong reasons, and we don't really fully understand what they are, because by definition, I don't think that they go to the right people usually ever. Very rarely, I would say. I mean, sometimes there's those unanimous guys, like Lamar had that a while back, a couple years ago, and certainly it like they do, like the best player probably does win MVP most of the time. But I think there are other instances with, Defensive Player of the Year, Offensive Rookie of the Year, yada, 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 where I think there are certain exceptions that need to be made. And I guess this one was made just because, like Jacob said, I think they wanted to change it up a little bit.
No, and Elliot, this is why, like the other day when we were talking about legacies and like winning a Super Bowl versus an MVP, I put in more weight on the Super Bowl than winning an MVP, because a lot of times you get to the it's your turn portion of this, and that's what this kind of felt like a little bit for Josh Allen. Like, hey, we've given it to Lamar Jackson back-to-back seasons. All right, Josh Allen, it's your turn. Josh Allen's still deserving of it. I mean, I know you brought up Cook, whether he's a top 10 running back or not. That's, he had one all-pro player that he played with this season compared to 6 or 7 or whatever it was for Lamar. I'm always a do more with less guy. I'm always going to roll. If I had to vote, I would always go with the guy that is doing the most with less over guys who have more weapons, and it's a little easier for them to do their job from that perspective. That's why I've been saying I would pick Josh for weeks now. I started getting to the point where I didn't think he was going to get it, because all the national shows, everyone was leaning towards Lamar, but ultimately that's how it came up. As far as Joe Burrow goes, Joe Burrow, again, was an MVP candidate. He ended up getting quite a few votes as well. He did get 15 third-place votes. 9 fourth-place votes, and 12 fifth-place votes. He was on the ballot of 39 of the 50 voters for MVP last night, as far as that goes. I don't think anyone truly thought Joe Burrow was actually going to win this MVP this year anyways, but it was interesting seeing his name on the ballot.
Would have been interesting to see if he made the playoffs, and that would have gone with Trey Hendrickson too. It would have been very, very interesting to see how these awards shake out had the Bengals got in, because I think it changes it up quite a bit. If Joe Burrow gets into the playoffs, I think there's a solid chance he wins at least second in MVP votes, because of what he had to do with the Cincinnati Bengals and with the reasoning you just gave. I think he came out on one of his 15 shows yesterday and said that he should have won MVP. I think he would have. He said
he was the best player in the league last year, but didn't think he was going to win MVP.
Yeah, correct.
So at least he understands what the awards are about, because that's what it's about.
So Jamar Chase also got MVP votes yesterday. He was on 4 of the 50 ballots that were submitted. As far as that goes, Teddy Bruschi had Jamar Chase on his ballot, but did not have Joe Burrow on his ballot. I thought that was an interesting wrinkle, because you hear Jamar Chase is on these ballots. You're assuming if Jamar Chase is there, that the guy that's throwing him the football has to be there. I thought that was the most interesting one, just because of the fact that you put Jamar Chase on there, which I have no problem with, but then keeping the guy that's throwing him the ball off. I thought that was interesting. But yeah, Teddy Bruschi having Jamar Chase on there, but no Joe Burrow, I thought was another interesting wrinkle in the voting for the Bengals.
And Tom Brady had Jamar Chase 4th and Joe Burrow 5th, so kind of similar in the sense of, giving a little bit more credit to Jamar than Burrow for the season that they had this year. I thought it was interesting to see that Jamar, obviously not listed as one of the finalists for the MVP, but got a lot of votes.
Yeah.
Or not a lot, but more votes than a lot of the other guys that weren't listed as finalists. And for him to go through all that and be recognized as having one of the best seasons in the entire NFL, and then not receive a single first-place vote for Offensive Player of the Year, that's really what drove me up a wall last night. I really don't have a problem with Saquon winning that award. He had an unbelievable year, 2,000 yards rushing. I've said time and time again how much of a difference he's made for the Eagles. But we talked about Cooper Kupp like he was God amongst men for 3 years because of his Triple Crown in L.A., and now we're just putting it on the back burner because it happened in Cincinnati. I don't care for that. I think it should have at least been close. I don't mind if you think Saquon was ahead of Jamar, but I cannot wrap my head around how he got 0 first-place votes.
I think they used the Offensive Player of the Year this year as sort of like a MVP part 2. And they knew they couldn't give the real MVP to Saquon, so they're like, all right, we're going to give Saquon the MVP 2, which is the Offensive Player of the Year, and to hell with everybody else. I think, again, I'm not knocking what Saquon did. He was absolutely incredible from the jump, and he is probably the only reason why anybody is thinking that the Eagles can beat the Chiefs on Sunday. Saying that, I don't know why Ja'Marr Chase's accomplishments get undermined so much by everybody else. I still feel like he's not regarded as from the national media. I feel like he's still not up there, who's the best wide receiver in the NFL. I still think Justin Jefferson still gets all those answers, and that's fine. He's a great wide receiver. I just think Ja'Marr Chase deserves some flowers eventually. Getting no first-place votes is a crime. It's an absolute crime. How do you give Derrick Henry a first-place vote, knowing that Saquon's probably going to win it? If you're going to do that, because that's a throwaway vote, and that person knew that was a throwaway vote, why would you not give it to probably the next best offensive player, which would be Ja'Marr Chase, who, again, had the triple crown? That's not, like we say the triple crown like it happens. It doesn't happen ever. It very rarely happens.
I think it all goes back to non-playoff team. That hurt everything. I think the awards ceremony for the Bengals looks drastically different if the Bengals win one more game. Like, that's the difference between them missing the playoffs. That's the difference between them making the playoffs. That's the difference between Joe Burrow having a legitimate shot of winning MVP. That's the difference between a legitimate, respectable conversation about Ja'Marr Chase. Because I agree with you. All of these things, like Joe Burrow had an MVP season. Ja'Marr Chase had, I don't even think it goes without saying, had an elite season. But it just, I think, very simply put, when we ask why they're not getting the attention, same thing with Trey Hendrickson. Trey Hendrickson was the best defensive player last year on a non-playoff team. He was the best defensive player on a bad defense in a non-playoff team this year. That's why he's not getting recognized. Same thing with Ja'Marr Chase. Same thing with Joe Burrow. In that regards, when you talk about Saquon and Derrick Henry, I think it's just easy to talk about them because they're on the brighter stage. They're playing in the playoffs, and they've been on winning teams the entire season. I think it just comes down to that when it's all said and done.
I don't think you're wrong, and I really didn't have a problem with that in the Joe Burrow MVP conversation, but I don't think the team performance should have as much weight as you go down the line in these awards. I think those awards are labeled. I'm not saying they don't, because clearly they do, but those awards are labeled as individual success within the regular season.
Yep.
It shouldn't matter. I think Josh Allen beating Lamar in the playoffs swung that MVP vote in a way for at least a couple voters. I don't know whether they voted already or not, but it certainly seems like that had a shift in the perception of that award. And I just don't think for Offensive Player of the Year and Defensive Player of the Year that should come into play in terms of talking about who should win it. And the conversation we had with Josh Allen, I think, is the exact conversation you can have with Trey Hendrickson and the Defensive Player of the Year argument. Josh Allen did so much with so little, and that's why a lot of people think he should have won the MVP. That's absolutely fair. That's a reasonable argument. Trey Hendrickson had 17.5 sacks on a team with the second leading guy having 36 sacks as a team. He was doing it alone when it comes to pressuring the quarterback, and he was pressuring the quarterback at the highest rate of anyone in the league. Any offensive line playing the Bengals on Sunday or Monday or Thursday or whenever it is, they circled 91 going into that week and said, he can't beat us, and week in and week out, he beat them. I think at some point that should have been rewarded, and I think in terms of Trey Hendrickson, the Bengals defense being bad should have helped him in this award because of what he was able to do with so many eyes on him week in and week out.
Getting 17.5 sacks while you get triple and quadruple teamed because no other defensive player respectfully was worth a damn, that has to mean something. I mean, I guess, who was the last player I think Strahan might have been one of the last players to win the award on a bad team. Like, I'm trying to remember who it was, but it just seems to me like this is we don't like the Cincinnati Bengals type of award show. And that's fine. You can do that. Like, and I know they throw us a bone with the Comeback Player of the Year award, but I'm going to be honest, I shouldn't say that on the radio. I don't care at all about the Comeback Player of the Year. Couldn't care any less about it. And I think Joe Burrow kind of said that last night when he went up to the podium, is like, yeah, I wish I wasn't nominated for this every other year. But it's, and that's no knock on Joe Burrow at all. I'm just saying, if that's the only award they're going to give us is, we were bad last year, so we'll just give our quarterback the Comeback Player of the Year. I don't think that seems fair. Trey Hendrickson absolutely deserved the Defensive Player of the Year award. Absolutely. I can understand why Ja'Marr didn't win it. I think Saquon carried the Eagles. I can understand why Joe Burrow didn't win it. I think Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson, what they did this year to get their teams to the playoffs, I think that was awesome. Good for them. But how does Trey Hendrickson not get into the conversation of winning that award? It just boggles my mind.
Yeah, and think we're all on the same page for the other stuff. We'll just defer. I'm on a different side with the Trey Hendrickson thing, only because, I mean, I'll use Myles Garrett as an example. He had just as good a season as last year, but the Browns make the playoffs last year. He wins Defensive Player of the Year. The Browns missed the playoffs this year. He's not even being talked about outside of wanting to get the hell out of Cleveland. But I think your guys' point is the team success shouldn't matter. Like it's more of when you talk about Defensive Player of the Year, we're talking about that player's performance. But I think that's why you see Patrick Surtain and others. I mean, everything's being propped up by what's around them. A very, very good defense. It's like in the NBA. We look at scorers who average about 30 a game. If they're on a bad team, we just call them high volume shooters and say that they're whatever. You're putting up a lot of points on a bad team. That's the kind of treatment that not just, I don't think it's just an anti-Bengals. I don't even think it's an anti-Bengals thing. I think if the Bengals defense was better, the Bengals in the playoffs, I think he's getting that award when it's all said and done. But we'll just, go from there. But
KOC winning Coach of the Year. Any objections there?
I don't have a problem with KOC winning Coach of the Year. I am floored that Dan Quinn didn't come in second.
Yeah.
I cannot believe that Dan Quinn
What was the order? I didn't
votes.
see the order for that. What was the order?
Dan Campbell finished second, which they had a great year. The Lions had a phenomenal year. They were in the conference championship last year.
Yeah.
I understand he overcame injuries and led that team to a great record, won the division, all that great stuff. The Vikings were predicted to finish last. I think Kevin O'Connell is easily the best coach in the NFC North this season. And I just can't believe what Dan Quinn did in Washington. I mean, obviously some of us talked about it. Kenner, you, and Reed likened them to the Texans of last year, saying that they could have a big season this year, and they absolutely did. They won a playoff game. They went to the NFC Championship. So I think Dan Quinn should have absolutely been second, if not first. I thought that was going to be a two-horse race, and I was floored when he finished either third or fourth.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one. And the Coach of the Year award is always the weirdest one to me, just because it's not the best coach in the NFL. It's who did the best coaching job this year, who was the best. It's just, to me, it's always the storyline. That one, the Coach of the Year award, is always the most storyline driven than any of the other awards, in my opinion. MVP is pretty heavy with that too. But I think if you ranked which awards are storyline based and you rank them, I think Coach of the Year is probably number one. Because
it was Kevin O'Connell first, Dan Campbell second, Andy Reid third, Dan Quinn and Sean Payton were tied for fourth.
See, Andy Reid should be right. I mean, put him he should win Coach of the Year every year. We've had this debate. LeBron MVP for maybe years ago should have been it every year, right? But I have no problem. You're right, Kevin O'Connell. I have no problem with that one. That one kind of made sense, right there.
Ben Johnson, he won Assistant Coach of the Year. I think that award seems like a popularity award.
That award feels like what assistant coach got paid the most amount of money in the head coaching, and the owner wants to justify it, so we give them an award.
Correct.
I think it was probably between Ben Johnson and Liam Cohen.
Yeah.
And, Virginia McCaskey paid more before she kicked it than Shad Khan did.
Yeah.
Last thing here I'm going to go back to the last thing on the way out, just because this individual had Joe Burrow's back the entire season, and I'm floored by this. We talked about Joe Burrow getting 39 of the 50. He was on the ballot of 39 of the 50 ballots that were there. The biggest name that didn't vote for Joe Burrow that I thought was interesting, well, like Emmanuel Acho was on that list. Brewski's on that list. Tony Dungy's on that list. Those are all some of the bigger names that I thought was interesting that Joe Burrow wasn't on their ballot. But the biggest one, and his name's not bigger than those, but I think he's more prominent because he's on ESPN and talking about Joe Burrow all the time, is Dan Orlovsky. Are you guys surprised at all that Joe Burrow did not make the ballot of Dan Orlovsky?
I'm surprised he wasn't in the 4 or 5 slot. I mean, Dan has said a couple of times that the regular season record and making the playoffs was a big thing for him. So I understand that he wouldn't have been high on that list. But with the amount of support he's given to Joe Burrow in debates across the season, and publicly saying how great of a year he had, that definitely did surprise me that he wasn't in the top 5. Because I mean, getting 5 slots now instead of 3, you would have thought he would have been able to put him in there somewhere.
Yeah.
All right, this is Off the Bench presented by United Dairy Farmers, Chatterbox Sports on YouTube, ESPN 1410, Wing AM in Dayton. Let's talk about the Pro Football Hall of Fame class of 2025. We now know who's on that list. We're going to talk about who's eligible for next year's class. We're going to get to all of that when we come back. More Off the Bench next. continuing on, obviously the NFL awards last night were announced. By the way, I think that's awesome what the NFL does. Like, that was pretty cool. I mean, that was just, a very cool awards ceremony. I know we've talked about they've done this for a little bit, but Snoop killed it. I thought Snoop, by the way, I think legitimately pissed Burrow off with that defense, with the comment about the defense. And I don't know if you guys saw that look that Joe Burrow had. I'm like, come on. If Bill Belichick could take a joke about his 24-year-old girlfriend, I'm pretty sure that Joe Burrow could take a joke about his joke of a defense. So
you can't laugh if you're the quarterback of the team on that joke. You can't laugh. He was doing his job.
If he's the ultimate competitor that you say he is, I'd be pissed. I wouldn't defend that defense. They didn't do their part this season. I would let everyone laugh at them.
You, as the leader of the team, you can't do that. It would be like if somebody made fun of our ratings and I had to sit here and just laugh about it. Like, no, we were a team here and we stick with one another. That's what we do.
Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers, Chatterbox Sports on YouTube, ESPN 1410 Wing Game. But Dayton, let's continue on. The Hall of Fame, something that we always keep a close eye on, of course. And, ESPN's Adam Schefter just kind of reading off this right here. He says, Pro Football Hall of Fame class of 2025. It was announced last night. But Jared Allen, Sterling Sharp, Eric Allen, and Antonio Gates was the class of 2025.
Yeah, I think those guys, smallest class since 2005. The 4 elected is the smallest possible class, 1 from the senior group, 3 from the modern era group. All these guys that got in are no doubt Hall of Famers. Sterling Sharp's on that list of Triple Crown winners we've talked about before. Antonio Gates, obviously one of the best tight ends of all time. I think he's very high up, if not number 1 on the tight ends touchdown list.
Number 1.
And Jared Allen, obviously a phenomenal career in Minnesota as an edge rusher. And then I don't know as much about Eric Allen, but that's usually how it shakes out with the senior group. So congrats to him as well. I think the main takeaway wasn't necessarily anyone that got in. Usually a lot of the conversations around who people got in, who shouldn't have, or first ballot or anything like that. I don't think there's many gripes with those 4 guys. I think the gripes come with the people that were left out. Most notably in Cincinnati, Willie Anderson left off the ballot yet again, one of the best right tackles of all time. Continues to be left just short of the Hall of Fame. Thought he had a good chance this year. Obviously, with the smallest class ever, there were some spots left open. But he did finish in the top 7, falling just short of the 80% approval, which allows him to automatically become a finalist next year, which should aid him there. The other players automatically finalists next year: Torrey Holt, Luke Kuechly, and Adam Vinatieri. Obviously, I wanted the Willie Anderson in, but another Cincinnati guy on that list, Luke Kuechly, I thought he was going to get in on first ballot for sure. He was one I thought was going to be a lock, and I was really shocked to not have in there. Adam Vinatieri, not so much, because I think special teams, it's hard to get in there, especially first ballot, much less overall. And then the other main talking point was Eli Manning, and really not finishing close enough to even be an automatic finalist next year. So interesting that they might, those voters might view him a little bit differently than a lot of the national media. But I thought it was interesting that they took the route of electing a really small class. With next year's potential candidates, I wonder if they might go bigger, because there's a lot of guys that are eligible that seem to be easy picks.
Yeah, I don't get why Willie Anderson doesn't get into the Hall of Fame. I've never understood it. I don't think any of the players understood it. I forget, who was talking to who was the offensive line that went to the Rams? Andrew Whitworth. Sorry, my brain is broken. Andrew Whitworth was talking about Willie yesterday and saying, absolutely, there's no doubt in my mind that he should be in. And this is where I think some of these awards take a little shot at the little guys like the Bengals, and guys like Willie Anderson suffer from it for no reason. Willie Anderson should be a Hall of Famer. The fact that he's not is a disgrace. And the NFL is going to keep doing it probably until the end of time. I hope it's next year, like Jacob said, maybe a bigger sized class or a bigger sized amount of guys that get in next year is going to help that. But the fact of the matter is he's a Hall of Famer, and the fact that he's not is a stain on the NFL.
Speaking of that list for next year, a lot of really interesting names: Larry Fitzgerald, Drew Brees, Phillip Rivers, Jason Witten, Frank Gore, Julian Edelman, the headliners. But notable for us here, Geno Atkins finally eligible for the Hall of Fame. And I thought, my whole life that he would kind of be one of those ones that seemed to be an easy pick.
Yeah.
But ESPN put out some Hall of Fame percentages, and he was just below 80% yesterday.
Okay.
So it seems like we're going to have another fight on our hands in Cincinnati to try to get some Hall of Fame worthy guys in that wore stripes. But Hall of Fame class 2025 last night: Eric Allen, Jared Allen, Antonio Gates, and Sterling Sharp, the smallest class since 2005.
You think obviously team success plays a role in that too. I mean, a lot of
Absolutely.
100% it does.
The guys that get in there, oh, this is a great player from a Super Bowl team or a team that made the playoffs for 6 straight years or just something along those lines. That's where the team success comes in and impacts that as well. Everyone seemed, for whatever reason, Eli Manning's name has been brought up a ton this morning. Eli's a weird character, and I haven't really broken down his numbers to sit here and compare his numbers to other, Hall of Fame quarterbacks. But it feels like, obviously, it's all about winning Super Bowls, and I think that's why he's in the position to get to the Hall of Fame. He won 2 of them, and I don't think it's just that he won 2 Super Bowls. I think it's who he did it against that is also propping his name up. 2 Super Bowls for Eli Manning. If it's not against Tom Brady, do you think he's even close to the Hall of Fame conversation? Where are you at with Eli Manning?
I think it's less the Super Bowls than the name on the nameplate.
Yeah, that could be it too. I do think the Super Bowls, if he didn't win a Super Bowl, he would not be in conversation for the Hall of Fame. Saying that, he did win. He won twice against arguably the greatest team in NFL history. So I think he does get credit for that. I think he was a fine quarterback. I don't think he was ever like a top 5 quarterback, but I think Eli Manning was solid, and he had a long career. Stayed with the Giants for how many years? 16, 17 years. Mm-hmm. So he was a solid quarterback. He had 366 touchdowns, 244 interceptions, completed 60% of his passes. And my favorite stat of all time is that his quarterback record, he finished 117 and 117, a complete 500 winning percentage. So
first ballot Hall of Very good.
Correct.
Do not think Eli Manning's a Hall of Famer by any sense of the word. I think you said it right there, what really nudges me out. He was never a top 5 player at his position, and maybe you can argue top 5, but he certainly was never top 3, and I think that should be enough to keep you out of the Hall of Fame. I'm very glad that he didn't get in on the first ballot. I think that would have been nonsense. I think that would have been the 2 Super Bowls carrying a lot more weight than the rest of his career, and he has 2 trophies for those 2 Super Bowls. He's been awarded for those 2 Super Bowls. Hall of Fame is a career-based award. I don't think he's done enough to get in. He will get in at some point. I'm just glad it wasn't first ballot.
Never received an MVP vote in his entire 17-year career with the New York Giants. Not one.
So maybe this shouldn't be as controversial as what they keep.
Well, I think
I don't know why it's that controversial.
Well,
he's top 10 in every quarterback stat, which really helps him. But those are counting stats for a guy that played 20 years and never went over 500 in a career record. I just don't think that's a Hall of Fame quarterback. I understand the 2 Super Bowls are phenomenal. I understand what he did for the New York Giants, getting them there, getting them to the top of the mountain. But I just don't think he's a Hall of Fame quarterback.
And I truly do believe if his last name wasn't Manning, this wouldn't be a debate as well. Jacob's 100% right about that. And especially now what he's doing for the NFL in terms of the Manning cast and all the commercials and the shows he does for him. All of that plays into the fact that he's going to be in the Hall of Fame without question. And I'm sure the moment's going to go viral when what's the big guy who always gives everybody the jackets when he comes on a surprise guest on the Manning cast in 2 years and he's like, "Oh, I didn't expect this." And he gets his little gold jacket and that's it. It's no knock on Eli Manning. He's a very, very good quarterback.
No, mine is a knock on Eli Manning.
Yours is a knock on Eli. Mine is not necessarily a knock. I just think if you look at his stats compared to other quarterbacks, it's not close.
Now, if he waits his turn and we get around to another 3-man class, I think you can put him in. I think he's one of those guys in that conversation where, if there's a really light class one year and he's sitting there at the top and, we haven't put Eli Manning in yet?
Yeah.
That's how he gets in. I think he was really hurt this year by it being his first ballot. I think he maybe could have snuck in with this level of class in the future, but I think a lot of people were very cognizant about not putting him in on the first ballot.
Yeah.
When yesterday, to go back to Joe Burrow real quick, when we ended the show yesterday, he was already making his rounds on Media Row, of course, and he continued doing it throughout the rest of the day. Was there anything, I know you and Craig jumped on yesterday to talk about some of the fallout reaction to, I know he said a lot of the same things, but was there anything said by him the rest of the day that, caught your attention at all? A lot of it very similar to what we already talked about, but anything else stand out to you during the rest of Joe Burrow's media tour yesterday?
We talked about his willingness to restructure yesterday on the show. We talked about how he added Mike Gesicki to that list of premier free agents the Bengals should target to bring back yesterday on the show, but something that happened a little later in the day that I thought was really interesting on Kay Adams' show, Up and Adams, she asked if he was injecting himself in this situation with T. Higgins, Trey Hendrickson, and everything like that, and he was very quick to say no. He said that this is part of his job as a franchise quarterback, to work with the organization, to work with the front office, to figure out ways to make the team better, and I think that really stuck out to me because he thinks this is what he's supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
This isn't anything outside of his job description in his mind. As the franchise player, he should be working with the front office to recruit these guys back, to work on their contracts, to improve the roster. And the fact that he said work with the front office really stuck out as well, because we talked about Trey Hendrickson a couple days ago and how poor that communication is. Doesn't seem like that's the same with Joe Burrow. So maybe he's kind of working as a liaison between the players and the front office to try to work this all out, make it work for both sides. He started emphasizing that during the Pro Bowl as well. He said T. Higgins was a need during the regular season, and last week during the Pro Bowl, for the first time, he really started to say that everyone has to make it work for everyone, including the players with the front office. So I think a lot of that stuff really changes how I view this media tour in terms of what he thinks he's doing or what he's trying to do. I think he's just trying to make the Bengals a better team and letting the front office know that what he thinks is best for this team to win quickly is to keep these guys around.
Yeah.
What do you think he means when he says, that something has to happen that makes sense for everyone? How does something happen that makes sense for everyone while the players get what they're worth? Because I feel like if every player gets what they're worth, that doesn't really bode well for the Cincinnati Bengals. And for it to work for everybody, that means someone has to take a little bit of a hit, and that means you're not getting paid what you're worth. I guess that's going to be the big thing, is how do you accomplish all of those? I don't think you can. So it's like when he says that, I get what you're saying. Hey, we have to find a solution that, for something that makes sense for everybody, but also saying his players need to be paid what they're worth. I don't know if you could accomplish both.
If they want to stay in Cincinnati, they can't get paid top of the market value. The Bengals' best bargaining chip is that they want to stay together, and they have all four of them. No other team in the NFL has all four of these guys. So I think that's the Bengals' best bargaining chip, and that's what Austin Elmore brought up yesterday on Twitter is Joe Burrow putting some pressure on these players as well as the front office? And I think that's a great point as well. If T. Higgins and Trey Hendrickson want to sit there every time they go to the mic and say how bad they want to be in Cincinnati, you're going to have to, take some sacrifices to make that happen. We all will. Jamar Chase is going to have to come down to 35 from 40. Joe Burrow is going to have to restructure his contract and move money around to make that happen. Everyone's going to have to take some level of sacrifice in order to make this happen, and I think that's kind of what Joe's hammering home. The front office is going to have to sacrifice by changing how they do contracts, guaranteeing money, being creative with moving things around, and the players are going to have to take a little bit of a sacrifice in order to stay together. Or, as he said on First Take, someone else will pay you that full market value, so go get what you're worth.
And when he says everybody wins, right, I do think that he's also factoring in, if you pay these guys, you have a good chance to win football games. You have a chance to go to the playoffs, go to the Super Bowl, to win the Super Bowl, to win a championship. That's not valuable to the Cincinnati Bengals, or at least that's how it appears if they don't pay all of these guys. That's what it appears to me, is that, when Joe says this can be great for all of us because you pay good players make wins get you to a Super Bowl. If the Bengals care about winning, that's certainly what you do, and then we all win. National media, they stop calling you the Bungles, they call you the Cincinnati Bengals. Put some respect in your name. Maybe we win a couple awards. Who knows? Maybe we'll win something outside of Comeback Player of the Year award. That would be great. And I think if the front office cares, which I do think they do, as of this very second, until I see otherwise, I think they care. And if they care, then we're going to have a good season next year. You're going to go to the playoffs, and hopefully, when you have a top 3 quarterback in the NFL, hopefully that guy's able to get you to a Super Bowl and maybe win the damn thing.
Last thing on this too, because I know we spent a lot of time on it yesterday. The only other question I'll throw out to you guys is, you heard Duke Tobin when he came out and said that, he speaks with Joe Burrow every offseason and before every season begins. And Joe Burrow says that he has a lot of communication with the front office. I wonder what they talk about, because it seems like Joe Burrow has no answers. So when Joe Burrow is in front of Duke Tobin, in front of that front office personnel, I just want to know what they're talking about, because I feel like they're not accomplishing anything in these meetings, because if they did, Joe Burrow would have the answers that he needs, or maybe that is the thing. Maybe he has the answers he needs and he doesn't like those answers, and that's why he's resorting to this. I'm just curious what they talk about, because it seems like there's so much uncertainty by Joe Burrow for a guy that seems to talk to that front office a lot, I guess.
Yeah, he took a shot at the front office yesterday. He said, we need to draft well. We need guys to come in and produce immediately. We don't have any more time to wait around. That seems like a pretty direct shot at how they've handled free agency and the draft and everything along those lines. Again, talking about getting outside of those organizational norms, you have to sacrifice some things in the draft when you have these guys paid how you're going to hypothetically have them paid. You have to draft guys that might not hit your size profile or your age range that you want, that have good production that can come in and produce right away. You have to get outside of that mold that hasn't worked in the past. And I think that's what he's saying now. Maybe over the last couple of years, the Bengals front office has been comfortable. And they got to a Super Bowl and an AFC championship. I can't blame them for getting a little bit comfortable. But it obviously hasn't worked over the last 2 years. So I think that's why Joe is now pushing them to change some of those philosophies.
Listen, Joe Burrow, again, no quarterback, in case he said this great yesterday, no quarterback is going on media tours just to say, I want my friends to get paid. Nobody other team has to do that.
Rodgers does.
Outside of that, there's not many other players in the NFL that go on media tours. And he went on, I feel like, 15 different shows yesterday, just talking about what the Bengals need to do next year to pay their guys and make the playoffs. What do you need to do? That's crazy to me. And I think that, to your point, Kinner, I do think they've had conversations, and I think Joe Burrow doesn't like the answers that he's getting back in those conversations. So what happens when you don't like those answers? You're gonna go make answers of your own. You're gonna go out there, you're gonna go on Radio Row, and you're gonna make as much noise as possible, draw as much attention as possible to the Cincinnati Bengals. That way, when they're making their decision or they're thinking about backing out, the spotlight is right on them. It's right on them. So if you want to back out of Trey and T, that's fine, but just know that spotlight is going to follow you all the way to the door.
And another note that came out yesterday, Jordan Schultz tweeted that league executives are paying very close attention for how Joe Burrow is talking about this offseason, saying that they could potentially be circling like vultures if the Bengals mess this up with this core that Joe Burrow clearly wants back. And I think that's something that we have to be worried about in Cincinnati if they don't do what he's asking them to do in terms of this roster when you financially are able to, is he could leave. That second contract could not be in Cincinnati, and that would be an absolute nightmare. And I think this is step one to assuring that he's in Cincinnati his entire career, is keeping this core together.
We'll give you Myles Garrett. You give us Joe Burrow.
No,
the best I can do is Jermaine Burton.
No. You can have Burton.
Yeah, he's a really good tackler, by the way. He's led the league led the team in tackles, right?
He's a pro bowler. I heard he was trying to go pro bowling. That's the career path change.
I love that joke.
You're
Fashionable.
welcome.
There we go. All right, Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers, Justin Kinner, Elliott Rearing, Jacob Tissett, Casey McAllister. Here on a Friday, former Pro Bowl running back Keith Byars is going to join us coming up. He's played in the Super Bowl. He played for the Eagles back in the day. We're going to talk about all of that with him coming up here in about 20 minutes. But we'll step away for a few moments, and we'll dive into a little Super Bowl buy or sell when we come back. This is Off the Bench. All right, we'll do. We're going to push back our NFL buy or sell a little bit later after we chat with Keith Byars coming up here around the corner. Little college basketball. First off, before we get into college basketball, UC plays this weekend. We'll talk about that coming up here in a second. I don't know if you guys saw this. Apparently, for instance, Wright State has their homecoming game this coming up Saturday night, and they have a chance. Students can sign up for a chance for a half-court shot to win $10,000. And I thought that was interesting because of, another school tried that recently and it didn't go so well. Casey, while you're playing the video, I'll explain kind of what's going on here. But they did one of these little contests at a UMass women's basketball game, okay? The student had to make a layup, a free throw, a three-pointer, and a half-court shot to win $10,000. So as you can see, he's off to a good start for those watching on, obviously, YouTube right now. Not so great for radio, but he makes the free throw. I mean, this guy looks like he's played some ball back in the day. The layup is good. The free throw is good. Jumper. And bam, buries the three. So now all he needs to do to win $10,000 is just simply stand behind that half-court line and, let it rip. And he lets it rip. Bang! $10,000. He is that much richer right now. The student completed the halftime challenge. He was supposed to win $10,000. In the background, we had to mute it because his friend is dropping the F-bomb. They're in shock. Their buddy just won $10,000. Well, supposedly the insurance company told him that they will not pay him out because his foot was on the line, but they did offer him tickets to an upcoming UMass women's basketball game and some other features as well. I don't know. I thought this was a wild story. How unfortunate. I mean, they're being that nitpicky. We can't zoom in, I don't think, or anything, but they say his foot was on the line, and that's the difference between $10,000. Oh, look at us zooming in. I mean, do they have a point? What do we think here?
Well, the kid was asked about this, and he said that he was not told that his foot had to be behind the line. He said that was not articulated to him. Obviously, maybe that should just be understood with a half-court shot, but he said he was not told that his foot had to be behind the line. So for them to take away $10,000 if they didn't make that incredibly clear, I certainly don't like it. But they offered him a chance to do it again at a different game for like $1,000.
It made me so upset. So in the listing of the things, they were going to give him like merch. They were going to give him like a T-shirt. They were going to give him a box to a men's UMass basketball game, whatever that's worth. I think courtside seats to a women or men's game. It was just a bunch of nonsense. And then I got angry when they're like, we'll give you the same shot. We'll give you the same exact opportunity just for $1,000. If you do the same miracle run you already did, we'll give you $1,000.
They should just give him $1,000.
I did see the UMass men's basketball coach. I'm going to forget his name. But he did reach out. He's trying to reach out. They're trying to make this right, and I think he's going to get money somewhere or the other. But the company that screwed all this up was Odds On Promotions.
Okay, there we go.
Odds On Promotions was the company that screwed this one up. And I gave a bad review to their company.
Did you?
I did.
Oh. You're an online tyrann. I love it.
I gave a bad review to their company because I thought it was pretty disingenuous to have a kid. First of all, do you know how hard it is to 30 seconds to make all those shots and get your own rebound?
Very hard.
Like they knew there was a 0% chance. He was the 0.001 that got it. Well, Odds On Promotions has, and by the way, their 5-star rating was down to I think about a half a star.
Oh my gosh.
They had gone in and fixed it. It's now a 5-star company once again on Google reviews. But every comment's very, very funny. So listen, if you're going to make that kind of thing and you don't pay out because his foot was on the line, and by the way, was there a camera angle that had the foot on the line?
If that's the evidence they're using for foot on the line,
that's a lawsuit.
That's terrible.
That's terrible. Shame on that company. I hope literally they lose their business.
Oh, jeez.
And that's. Geez, they just robbed the kid of $10,000. I don't know what I'm supposed to say. I mean, that's terrible. Absolutely shameful by Odds On Promotions.
Have you guys seen that movie Semi-Pro? It just reminds me. Jackie Moon is running that promotion.
That's what right. It seems. That's
corn
right.
dog, Jackie. Corn dogs for all these people. We don't even have corn dogs. Is my favorite line of that movie. We don't even have corn dogs. We don't even have $10,000 is what they're trying to say. That's the thing, man. Like, I always wonder how many of those people truly even have the prize that they're giving away. I mean, legally, I'm sure that they do, but $10,000 to someone who hits a layup, a free throw, a three, and a half-court shot all in 30 seconds. And I'm sure they're probably urged to pick somebody that looks like they can't do it. To be fair, this dude looked like he's played some basketball before. So I think they weren't very smart with the selection process either. But you are right. That can't be the only video evidence that they have of that
it
shot
better not
that they
be.
are using.
Terrible.
I mean, pretty insane.
Don't they know, like, doesn't, like, the company, why would they know that they're going to get backlash, right? They know that they're going to, I mean, nobody's.
Okay, 48 hours of Twitter backlash or paying a kid $10,000.
But I feel like it's an insurance company, no? I thought, like, this is why I just don't get it. Like, it's like, if you're going to make the rules to the game and you're going to have the kid do all this, we got to get, like, we got to emphasize the rules. There needs to be, like, tape on the line, needs to, like, video evidence, video reviews. It can't just be somebody's video camera from the sidelines. That can't just be what we're using. And maybe that's not the case, but boy, what an absolute terrible scam that they've ran.
It sounds like something that State Farm would do, just saying.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, not very highly moral of them. Let's just put it that way. But no, have you guys seen the one where there was this high school that tried to pull a prank on their principal and they blindfolded him and, or it was a student or I think, it wasn't the principal, it was a student. It was something very similar to this where they were going to pull a prank on this student and he was going to win money if he could throw the ball behind his head at half court. And the fans were told to cheer as if he made it, but he's actually not, they're assuming he's not going to make it. He heaves it behind his head. He doesn't make it. The crowd goes wild. So then they call someone else to do it. This guy actually makes it. Now they have to give him the $1,000 or whatever it was. But yes, these things backfire if you don't actually have the prize to give away. So just be buttoned up with that. That's all.
Why? My question is, why do it? Why waste all of our time if you're just going to do anything? You ever hear the story about the guy who won $1 million from the Bulls all those years ago? And it was the same type of promotion. He had to make a 3/4 of the court. This guy had to go out and make a 3/4 of the court shot. And it was like a random Bulls game. I think it was for $1 million. It might have been $100,000. I don't know. It was for a large sum of money. And you had to make it from the other side of the free throw, like the other free throw line on the court, the far free throw line. He sinks it. But apparently there was some stipulation in the rules where you couldn't be a former basketball player. So what do? They look into this guy, and they see that he played rec basketball for like 5 years at the Y. And they're like, oh, this guy can't win it. He played basketball. And they canceled it. He didn't win it. So then I think Michael Jordan came out and he got the Bulls to pay, or somebody paid this guy his money. But it's crazy what these companies do, man. Crazy to me.
Yeah, but playing rec league basketball truly count as playing basketball? I mean, I was on the team in high school. I mean, that's where it kind of stops. I mean, there was that brief stint where I toured with the Globetrotters, all but one date here in Dayton, Ohio. But, I mean, outside of that, but the chances of I would be out of breath by the time I got my own rebound to get to half court to actually get the shot off either way. But Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers, Chatterbox Sports on YouTube, ESPN 1410 Wing AM in Dayton. As far as the radio side, that wraps up the first hour. So we'll step away for a few moments, talk about college basketball more in depth when we come back, and then we'll be joined by Keith Byars and talk all things Super Bowl to close out the show. We'll be right back. More Off the Bench next. Elliot said he went to Odds On Promotions Twitter handle or X handle.
Oh, yeah, Twitter account. And
telling story.
Their latest tweet was January 3rd. Today is February 7th. That tweet has 3 likes and 402 comments and growing.
That's what we in the biz call a ratio.
That is a ratio.
And
the comments, unfortunately, they're not very kind.
No, really?
Yeah, not very kind.
So I didn't even know what being ratioed meant until I'm sure it was a Bengals take of mine not too long ago. I had all these like younger kids telling me you've been ratioed. I don't even know what that means. I was like, is that supposed to be an insult? Apparently it was, and I was ratioed, I guess. I don't know. But nonetheless, we welcome you back off the bench. Keith Byars is going to join us coming up here shortly. We'll talk about things Super Bowl with him. College basketball tonight out of the Big East. I'm excited about this one. Rick Pitino in St. John's. He appears to have done the unthinkable. He has St. John's back in the tournament picture, which is pretty cool. But St. John's at UConn, Rick Pitino against Dan Hurley. That's tonight at 8:00. That's a big marquee college basketball game with the coaching star power, 2 top 25 teams. I'm jacked for that one. That's going to be a big one out of the Big East.
Do you think we get a white suit? This feels like it could be a white suit game.
I'm starting to feel it.
I would be very happy
do that on
with
the
a
road?
white suit. Oh, that's a good point. That's a good point. That might only be an at-home thing.
Really?
I don't know. But, Storrs, Connecticut's going to be rocking tonight. That's going to be a great atmosphere. Awesome game. Definitely going to try to watch it. That's going to be it's going to be a good one for the Big East. I hope that they both play well. I mean, obviously, both those teams have had a pretty low floor this year, but obviously played good basketball, both being ranked. Hopefully we get a good game tonight. That'd be a fun one. $2 beer night in Storrs, Connecticut at the Excel Center. So, should be a rowdy group of Husky fans.
It was a home game the last time we wore a white suit. It was a home game.
I wore a white suit to coach my rec basketball team in college because of Rick Pitino.
Love that.
And I believe you. I believe you did.
I have pictures.
Not going to lie. Yes, I'm sure you do. Tomorrow, Saturday. So how about this one? Number 3, Alabama going to be playing at unranked Arkansas. Gee, why? I mean, why do we care about unranked Arkansas? Well, that's Coach John Calipari's team, and they've won back-to-back. You know, they go to Rupp and they win, and Calipari's return, and then they take care of business. In their game right afterwards against Florida, I believe. So now they have a chance here against Arkansas or against Alabama to take care of business. We'll see what happens.
SEC's a gauntlet. I mean, Arkansas is starting to figure it out, which is a bad place to be if you're another team in the SEC because they're one of the very few that aren't ranked highly. So, yeah, if Arkansas can start figuring out, putting it together, this conference could get even deeper at some point. So, yeah, it's definitely a scary game. No easy games in the SEC, so it should be a good weekend of hoops.
Elliott's Bearcats, they'll be in action tomorrow. They're welcoming in BYU. 6:00 is the tip-off, and that'll be on ESPN Dose. You're getting the Dose action tomorrow, Elliott.
Right.
Will you be in attendance for this one? You saw a great game the last time you went.
I think. Well, shout out to West Virginia. I think I'm going to go. I'm not paying for tickets this time, thank God. But I think I'm going to go. The last time they played BYU again, it was 2 weeks ago, in BYU at BYU. BYU hit. I'm just trying to make sure. I think they hit 11 of 15 threes in that game. I'm pretty sure that was right. No, sorry, 15 of 20, 15 of 24. 15 of 24 threes. They won that game 80-52. UC is going to be a favorite in this game at home. They lost by 30. They're going to be favorite on tomorrow night. I'm going to ride with the BYU Cougs, but I want everybody to know I will be betting on the Bearcats.
Wow.
I'm betting on
Wow.
I think BYU wins. So that's why I'm going to say I'm riding with them. But I'm going to bet on the Bearcats.
Okay, well, good for them. It's been a while since you've dipped your toe in the Bearcats.
Yeah, I bet against them quite a few times in a row now. So we're going to go right back onto them. See if they lose again.
Keeping their at-large hopes alive.
There's not much I can say anymore about the team.
Up to like 80%.
I feel like 80%. A win, like I said, a win tomorrow is going to propel the Bearcats beyond the tournament. Maybe they get into the NBA based on that guy's projections because that guy is crazy to me. I mean, those projections make zero sense.
Where would Neil Payne have the Bearcats if they were like what you expected them to be this year? The number 1 overall seed?
Oh yeah, number one. No, by far, number 1. Distantly number 1. If they play like they did on Wednesday or yesterday, whatever day it is, I don't know what day it is anymore.
It is Friday.
Wednesday, when they beat UCF on Wednesday on the road, if they play like that tomorrow, they will win the game.
They flying Huggy in?
They should. He should be at every game going forward. It should be dodgeball and Huggins. That's the recipe. You play dodgeball every day of the week, and then you have Huggins talk to the team halftime and before.
I like that.
Or you can have Huggins talk to the team every day run every practice, be on
Yeah.
the sideline in every game, and imagine the impact he would have there. Just saying, maybe they could reunite, and it will feel so good.
Listen, I wouldn't be opposed to it. I mean, I would be a little bit opposed to it.
I feel like you'd be a lot of bit opposed to it.
Yeah,
I'd be pretty opposed to it.
But no, look, the only thing about the Bearcats, the way they looked the other night, do you expect them to put 90 up again? Maybe that's a little far-fetched. But if they could,
such a quick no.
They've done
it. They've done it twice this season. They beat Arkansas Pine Bluff like 100-2, and then they beat UCF like 95-85. Like I'm not measuring this Bearcats team going forward on two performances, one of which is one of the worst teams to ever play the sport. So I'm not going to write too much into it. I will say it gives us a little bit of hope after a quad one win. You win this, it's another quad one win. So just keep winning. I get is BYU actually BYU probably wouldn't be a quad one win, right? I don't know. I have to do the math.
Not at home.
Yeah, you're right. I'd have to do the math. Either way, I think BYU wins, but I'm going to ride with the Bearcats in terms of betting. So that's all I have to say. If Dylan Mitchell has a good game, if Day Thomas stays hot, Day Thomas has been hot for a couple games in a row now. Just try to fight. If they fight, if they give me effort, that's all I look for anymore. Just try. Just try your hardest.
And look, all I meant by that is not go out, put 90 points up. That'd be great. I just meant the way that they played, that intensity that you guys have been looking for out of that team. They finally had that the other night against UCF. If they come out with that same intensity tonight or tomorrow, whatever it is, and they show that now all of a sudden it's like, okay, I don't know what switch was flipped, but maybe that bodes well for the Bearcats at the most important time of the season, with just a little over a handful of games left as we head into the halfway point February, with March coming up around the corner. This is that time of season where you want to get hot, because we could talk about the team as a whole and how they've underachieved all season, but if they get hot at the right time, this is the time to start to get hot. Xavier is going to be on the road on Sunday at Villanova.
Superbowl Sunday.
Xavier, they're a bubble team right now. They are on the, just on the outside looking in for, of course, our guy Joe Lenardi over at ESPN. Ohio State will be at Nebraska. All of a sudden, they have turned the corner. Bruce Thornton hit a game winner last night. They take care of business against Maryland 73-70. There's a lot of Ohio teams in the mix for the NCAA tournament. Xavier and Cincinnati are fighting to get in. Dayton's fighting to get in. You look over a small conference. I know you guys don't pay attention to it, but the Horizon League, two of the top teams that have a legit shot to make it over there. Cleveland State, they're being talked about all over the place. I mean, I know Clark Kellogg highlighted them last week on CBS. ESPN's been highlighting their run as of late. Cleveland State's very good. Youngstown State's very good. I would like Wright State to be up there with them, but they're going through some growing pains right now. But I think Cleveland State has a good shot at that conference. And then if you go look at the MAC, Akron's sitting there at the top. Miami of Ohio is right there as well. The top 5 teams in the MAC are all Ohio teams. If you go look at the MAC standings right now, they are all Ohio teams. The worst team in college basketball in the state of Ohio is Bowling Green. They're second to last, I believe, or third from last in the MAC at this point. But there's a lot of Ohio teams that will be in the mix to potentially dance in March. But the MAC, I thought that was interesting. The top 5 teams in that conference, all Ohio teams, as far as that goes. But all right, this is Off the Bench presented by United Dairy Farmers, Chatterbox Sports on YouTube, and ESPN 1410 Wing AM in Dayton. We'll step away. When we come back, we'll have our guest on again, played 13 years in the NFL, Pro Bowl running back, College Football Hall of Famer, Keith Byars. He hopped on with us earlier in the season to talk all things college football. But we're going to talk all things Super Bowl and NFL. The Eagles in the Super Bowl taking on the Chiefs, trying to end their back-to-back Super Bowl win streak this coming up weekend. And we'll talk with Keith Byars, who played for the Eagles back in the day, when we come back. All right, and we are back. This is Off the Bench presented by United Dairy Farmers. Justin Kinner, Elliot Rear, and Jacob Tissett with you here. Casey McAllister in the producer chair. Super Bowl 51, right? Is that what we got? Right,
59.
Jacob? Elliot, 59? See, this is a problem. I don't know the Roman
I don't do
numerals.
Roman numerals either.
Okay, well, joining us now to help us with that, College Football Hall of Famer, former Pro Bowl running back, 13 years in the NFL. We got former Philadelphia Eagle Keith Byars hanging out with us here this morning. Keith, we appreciate your time. You were kind of educating us on the old Roman numeral a little bit ago. I just keep calling it Super Bowl licks. I don't even know what LIX is in Roman numerals at this point.
It's probably because I'm older than the Super Bowl. So I grew up learning those Roman numerals. It's Super Bowl 5, 7, 8, 9, 10. Oh, it's 1X. It's Super Bowl 10. So, unfortunately, I'm only 2 years older than the Super Bowl. Super Bowl's 59 this year. I'm 61. Be 62 in October. So, I grew up with those Roman numeral Sundays, learning it. So that's the only reason why I know that much.
Well, you've had a very fun run recently. You got a chance to go watch your college team, Ohio State. You got to go watch them win a national championship in person. And now your other former team, the Philadelphia Eagles, you're going to be there in person, potentially watching them win a Super Bowl coming up on Sunday. You played 13 years in the NFL, the majority of those years with the Philadelphia Eagles. We've talked about this, but you identify as a Philadelphia Eagle over all the other teams. How does that work for you throughout your NFL career?
Well, it depends on my company, but overall, I'm an Eagle first. That's my first team. I got drafted in the first round, of the Philadelphia Eagles. So I am an Eagle, first and foremost. And in that order, Eagles, Dolphins second, and the Patriots and the Jets are on the same level, as far as who I identify as, but overall. So if any one of those teams are playing the Eagles, I got to cheer for the Eagles. But when the Dolphins and the Patriots go at it, whoever's having a better season, that's who I usually cheer for, that their season continues. And the Jets haven't been relevant since I left. So, but that order. But I'm thrilled that the Eagles are in the Super Bowl, this year. They're going to New Orleans for the Super Bowl, and that's a Super Bowl I played in, Super Bowl 31. It was in New Orleans, and nothing to disparage the city of New Orleans. I love New Orleans, great city. But for the Super Bowl, it is logistically a nightmare. So that's why I'm not going to go to watch the Eagles live in New Orleans or watch them play. But I will be, going to the East Coast. I'm going opposite. I'm going to a Philadelphia Eagle watch party in Atlantic City to watch it with a bunch of Eagle fans. So I'll be Philadelphia adjacent. But I'll be there surrounded by a ton of Eagle fans.
Fair enough. Now, look, you talked about it. You obviously played the longest in the NFL with the Eagles, but you have played in a Super Bowl 31, as you just alluded to, in New Orleans when you were with the New England Patriots. Bill Parcells, the head coach at the time, and you went up against the Green Bay Packers, who had Brett Favre at quarterback at that time. Take us back to that time as a player. Here we are a couple days away from the Super Bowl. From a player's perspective, what were those last couple of days like building up to the Super Bowl? Because you get that 2-week gap. That first week, you're soaking it all in. You're AFC champions, and then the week of the Super Bowl is officially there. You're getting closer and closer. I'm sure at this point, all these players are just anxious at this point, right? They just want to hurry up and get to Super Bowl Sunday. What's going through the players' minds right now? What was it like for you a couple days out of the Super Bowl at this time back when you played?
Like I said, a lot of things. Prior to me even playing professional football, growing up a football fan, I was watching the AFC, NFC championship game, and then it's 2 weeks before the Super Bowl. I'm like, 2 weeks? That's a long time. And then once I got into the NFL, trying to get to the Super Bowl, and the times I lost in the playoffs, not making it to the Super Bowl, then it's a 2-week gap. And I'm like, even though my season's over with, it still seems to be football season. I'm frustrated. I'm not playing in the Super Bowl. I think it's too much hype. Just get the game over it already, so we all could be on the same page and trying to get to next year's Super Bowl. I felt that way all the way until it was my time. My 11th year in the NFL, I finally got to the Super Bowl 31. And what I always thought was the Super Bowl's too much hype. It's just too much build up. Just play the game already. It was not overhyped. I mean, you need that 2 weeks in between the championship game to come down from that high of winning your conference championship and getting your work done, getting focused on all the logistically things, family, tickets, and all that stuff. And you still got a football game. The biggest football game of your life is coming up in 2 weeks. And so all the preparation leading up to that game, it was like a dream come true. Because, when I was a kid playing sandlot football, I would always say, I'm scoring a game-winning touchdown in the Super Bowl. This is a Super Bowl. It's always the Super Bowl is, your final fantasy, of playing, football in your mind. So I'm 31 years old, and I'm getting ready to play in my first Super Bowl, and first and only Super Bowl. And it was just like dreams do come true. Dreams do come true. And I remember came out on the short end of the stick, but, that's secondary for the experience, to be able to play in the Super Bowl. The world is watching you, not just everybody in America. Everybody in the world is watching the Super Bowl. It's really a national holiday. And then to score a touchdown in the Super Bowl, I was like, wow, this is just unbelievable. And I was, Gronkowski used to spike the ball like me. He's where he got the hard spike for. I used to really spike the ball. But when I scored that touchdown in the Super Bowl, I was like, I'm not spiking this football. It's more than just me. And I just remember looking, and I was inside where my family were, and I could see my kids, and I just pointed at them. This is for you. This is for your pop. Pop did this for you guys and the family, and brothers, sisters, parents were there. My mom was there. Just outstanding, a memory. Unfortunately, we came up a little short in the game, but to play in the Super Bowl, that's just dreams come true.
Keith Byars with us here again off the bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers. Played in Super Bowl 31, 13 years in the NFL, former Pro Bowl running back, giving us some time here. Again, a couple days away, I should say, from the Super Bowl, the Eagles and the Chiefs. Keith, I do got to ask you this. When it comes to the Kansas City Chiefs, a lot's being made with them about, that they get the friendly whistle, if you will, that the officials just love the Kansas City Chiefs and that they get a lot of calls late in games. And, that's what us fans like to lean into. We talk about this all the time, whether we think that the officials, have a bias towards the Chiefs or not. Back during your time playing, was there ever a time where you thought, man, there's something fishy about the way this game's being officiated? Do you believe officials have a bias towards the Kansas City Chiefs? And do you recall a time during your playing days where you thought something just didn't feel right with how games were officiated at times where you're questioning the allegiance of those officials at certain points?
Well, I mean, not overall, no. During my time, the game was basically decided on the field. Now, were there bad calls? Yes, always been bad calls. But that doesn't mean we never felt corporately that this officiating crew was going to always, favor that team. We could hit the quarterback when I played. So as long as you didn't grab the quarterback's face mask, it wasn't roughing the pass. So you could hit him from all over. And you had 2 steps after he released the ball to get a hit on the quarterback. So those kind of things did not come into play during my era of the NFL. So in today's era, of course, when we got more cameras, more of this, but the Kansas City Chiefs are a darn good football team. They're two-time defending champions for a reason. It's not like that call, changed the total outcome of the game. Well, like you were blowing them out, and then all of a sudden they just got momentum. Those were close games, and there's still little things that make the difference in those ball games. And can you say they somewhat being more protective toward Kansas City? No. Toward quarterbacks, both quarterbacks get that form of protection. And you know what you're up against when you're playing the Kansas City Chiefs, not just because they're a great football team, but when their quarterback, Pat Mahomes, get out of the pocket, you got to pull up on him. But that's just not Pat Mahomes. That's any quarterback. You got to pull up. So I think the quarterbacks have an advantage in those situations. But I don't think this Super Bowl should be or will be decided by a call that's borderline. Oh, if it's borderline, it's going to go to Kansas City. This is me pre-Super Bowl saying that. I don't think that should happen. I mean, but you look at the Bengals Super Bowl when they played the Rams, that pass interference penalty or roughing the defenseless receiver call in the end zone. That was a tough call for the Bengal fans, and that gave Rams one more chance. But it's always, you can always pick out different plays from a whole lot of games that determine the outcome. But still, it's a 60-minute game, and don't let it come down to one call. I mean, and it's frustrating, but I understand, always going to have conspiracy people out there, but you still got other plays. You got 60 minutes to get it done. So when the ref makes a bad call, because they are human, I don't think they are going intent to favor a team. I really don't believe that.
We've talked a lot about the refereeing going into this week, but the other main conversation is the GOAT conversation with Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid and what completing the three-peat could do for them in terms of historic relevance. And how much weight do these players and coaches give to that outside noise leading up to, as you said, the biggest game of their career? I know a lot of people are talking about it, but are Mahomes and Andy Reid thinking about that kind of thing or just locked in on winning the Super Bowl?
Well, I think they're locked in and just winning the Super Bowl. I'm not a big GOAT person at all. So if they win, are they the greatest team of all time to win 3 straight Super Bowls? No, no. They are a great team. They've proven greatness. But I think you have to look at that back over time in your era. Just if you win the Super Bowl, you're considered one of the greatest teams of all time. Can you do it multiple times? Yes, Kansas City has done it multiple times. Can they win 3 in a row? They got a very good chance to do that. But if they don't do it, which I hope they don't, 'cause I want the Eagles to win, that still won't take away, their greatness as an organization, as a team. You still got the Steelers of the 70s that won, 4 Super Bowls in 6 years, 2 in a row, missed 2, then win 2 in a row. That's still greatness. And, I remember those teams that still curtain, teams, where Bradshaw, that's one of the reasons why he's in the Super Bowl, because he's the first quarterback to win 4 Super Bowls. Only quarterback has more Super Bowl wins under him is Tom Brady. So those are outside situations, but I just kind of like to deal with the here and now. Andy Reid is certainly one of the greatest coaches of all time in the NFL. Not the greatest, but a great coach nonetheless. And he's doing a great job in Kansas City. He got the Eagles to the Super Bowl when he was a coach there. His time ran out in Philadelphia, needed to change the scenery. Goes to Kansas City, new message, new ideals. It gets to Pat Mahomes. He's done a great job. Great job. And Pat Mahomes, as long as you got him on the field, you have a chance. That's the kind of leader you want at the quarterback position. To go to, 7 straight AFC championship games.
Yep.
But that's off the charts. It's unbelievable. He is a all-time, great player. And as long as he's out there Sunday, the Kansas City Chiefs got a chance to win the football game.
The running back position and the importance of it has been talked about a lot over the last couple of years. As a former NFL running back, former Eagles running back yourself, how hard is it to do what Saquon has been able to do this year, and how much does it mean for him to do it and lead them to the Super Bowl for the position as a whole as we move forward into free agency in the offseason?
Well, I think the NFL has always been a cyclical league. We always go around in cycles. It's a copycat league. And so now, hopefully the running game, it should have never went anywhere, but hopefully it's coming back and you see how important the running back position is. Maybe one of these days they'll bring the fullback position back. But you got Derrick Henry being a difference maker, for the Baltimore Ravens. He's been a difference maker everywhere he's been. Saquon Barkley, in the last 25 years and since the 2000s, he is I haven't seen a home run hitter like him in the NFL in the last 25 years. What do I call a home run hitter? Someone who has explosive plays of 20 yards or more. He is doing that in aces. He's got a lot of 20-plus yard plays, a lot of 30, 40, 50, 60-yard plays. He is dynamite. He's a home run hitter anytime he gets the ball. That's going to be one of the differences in that game also on Sunday. Can Kansas City Chiefs tackle Saquon Barkley consistently? Because the one time you think you're doing a good job, one misassignment, he's gone 65, 70 yards, touchdown.
Keith Byars with us here. Keith, you get the coach speak a lot of times. People just say, hey, we're treating this like it's just another game. It's just another game. It's one more game. It's the last game of the season. But obviously, this game's not just another game. It is the Super Bowl. The feel and the vibes of it from the time you wake up until kickoff, I'm sure, completely different. I think the thing that's interesting is this is a rematch. These two, the Chiefs are no stranger to the Super Bowl. The Eagles, this is their second time being here in the last 3 years, so they're no stranger to it either. But when people and coaches say it's just another game in regards to preparation, I'm sure that's not the case take us back. You wake up that morning of the Super Bowl. What is just all that like for them? What are some of the things that they're having to kind of fight through in preparation just to play what they like to deem as just another game?
Well, it's funny you say that because that is coach speak throughout the regular season, preseason, and even the playoffs. But once you get to the Super Bowl, it's not just, this is the ultimate game. There is no, it's just like a regular Sunday in the fall. And when I played in the Super Bowl, I mean, Bill Parcells, he prepared us for that. This is the Super Bowl. They don't get any bigger than that. There's no use to me trying to blow smoke or downplaying what we're about to do. The reasons why we are in this game is because what we did all through preseason, all through regular season, all in the playoffs. That's why we are eligible. So you're all ready for this game. Now go out there, leave it all out there on the football field. If you can't, die for that extra ball or make that extra effort on Sunday, Super Bowl Sunday, when will you ever? You always talk about you got to play with pain. Can't play if you're injured. It's nothing to save yourself for. There's no next weeks. There's no tomorrows. So it's the biggest game you're going to play in. You give maximum effort on every play because you never know what's going to be the difference in that ball game. I mean, and, quick sidebar. I had a teammate when we had got down after Desmond Howard took the kick return back. They went up 14 points. We had just had to sit down to 6. And so we're in, scramble mode. And I had a teammate that didn't dive for a ball. And I almost went after him. I really had to be somewhat restrained. I won't even say the teammate's name. I didn't want to have anything else to do with him because I'm like, it's the Super Bowl. If you can't give extra effort now, when will you ever? And, he didn't play much in the league much longer after that either. So that's what I look for on Super Bowl Sunday. You give it all. You give everything you have. You give it on the Super Bowl. I mean, I don't know if you remember when you probably don't remember. You weren't born. And when the Rams played the Steelers in the Super Bowl back in 1979, 80, linebacker Jack Reynolds had a broken leg. I mean, Youngblood. He played the Super Bowl with a broken leg. He had a broken bone in his tibia, fibula. I'm playing in the Super Bowl on one leg. I'm not coming out. Look at Terrell Owens. He got hurt during that Super Bowl run against the Patriots. When he was still in Philadelphia, Terrell was like, I know I'm not 100%, but I'm going to play in the Super Bowl. That's what you do for the Super Bowl. You're going to see that kind of effort out of both teams, on Super Bowl Sunday. That's why it's the greatest game you could ever play in. So that's going to be one of those games between the Eagles and the Chiefs. We're going to all be biting our fingernails in the fourth quarter. Who's going to win? I don't see a blowout at all. I see a really close game.
I was looking up Super Bowl halftime shows, specifically yours. I don't know if the NFL was out of ideas this year, but your Super Bowl halftime show was the Blues Brothers. The Blues Brothers. I think it was rated as one of the worst Super Bowl halftime performances ever. When you're a player, what happens? Because I think it's definitely it's a bigger spectacle today than it might have been back in the 90s. But when that happened, when that's going on, do the players go out there and watch it, or are you guys all in the locker room?
Oh, we're all in the locker room. We're in the locker room. Luther Vandross sang the national anthem at my Super Bowl. That was only how many years? Like 4 or 5 years after Whitney Houston had sang the national anthem. It blew still one of the best top 2 or 3 national anthems of all time. So to get Luther Vandross to sing the national anthem, it made the halftime so secondary. But But the halftime in the Super Bowl is a longer halftime than regular season and playoffs. So, we was okay with that because you got a little bit more time to recover, more time to make adjustments, and you kind of know it's a Super Bowl. Everything's going to be different. That's why when Justin was asking earlier, is it just like any other game? No, it's not like any other game. So the TV timeouts are a little bit longer because the NFL got to make that extra money. I don't know what the price is this year. What are they making? $4 or $5 million a minute for a commercial?
I think
Something
so.
like that.
I think it's record this year. It's $8 million for one spot this year. It was a record. It was a record. But yeah, it's insane. My last question for you. Now when people think of Philadelphia sports fans, they think they're a little bit crazy. back in the 80s, back in the 90s, back in the 80s specifically when you played for them, were they as crazy as they are today?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I
They had already booed Santa Claus when I got there. So I was about, they booed Santa Claus. So you think you that special? You don't give an effort, they'll boo you too.
What do you think? What's the craziest thing they would do to the city of Philadelphia if they win this Super Bowl?
Oh, they've already greased the lightning poles.
They
That don't
did.
matter. They're going to be sliding up and down. I mean, being in the Super Bowl is outrageous for the Philadelphia fans, but winning the Super Bowl, oh, it's going to be a party. I may go to the parade this year if they win the Super Bowl. I mean, it is a good time. And the Eagles get a bad rep. I defend them all the time because if you've never been to Philadelphia, been to a game, and know the Philadelphia vibe, then I can see how people misunderstand them. But they are truly the best fans in pro sports, the Philadelphia Eagle fan, because they live and die with you. That you are their their lifeline. And the Eagles is the number one team in Philadelphia. Even if the Phillies or the Sixers or the Flyers win championships, it's about the Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles make headlines in April, May, June. They love the Philadelphia Eagles because it's only once a week. All the other sports could be multiple times a week. Eagle football is once a week, so they gear up for it. For when the Eagles win on Sunday or Monday, the rest of the week is good because the Eagles win. Eagles lose, people got bad attitudes because they're like, man, we lost. Let's get back to the win. And so the heartbeat of the city is through the Philadelphia Eagles. And that's why the fans, they love you. That's why I'm going to Atlantic City, flying into Philadelphia Airport on tomorrow, because if you give them maximum effort, all you got, they will love you for a lifetime. So when I go back to Philadelphia, it's like my second home. I am very comfortable in the city, because they remember you. I haven't scored a touchdown in Philadelphia since the 90s, but hey, I would always be, one of the sons and brothers of the city of brotherly love, the Philadelphia Eagles.
So what's the attitude? Send us out with this. What's the attitude for Eagles fans going to be like next week? Is it going to be dark and dreary, or are they going to be celebrating a Super Bowl? What's your prediction for Sunday? Is your former team, the Eagles, going to end the Super Bowl streak for the Chiefs?
They're going to end it. They're going to end it. And I want to see Pat Mahomes stand on the sideline watching the Eagles offense just continue to get first down, touchdown. That's what Saquon Barkley is going to do. But I think the secret weapon in that game, Saquon's going to play well. Jalen Hurts is going to play well. A.J. Brown is going to play well. But Dallas Goedert, Devontae Smith, if both of those guys or either one of those guys gets over 50 yards in receiving, that favors the Philadelphia Eagles. They are that special. But Pat Mahomes, you don't never count him out. That's why I want to count him out. Leave him on the sideline, watching Eagles eat up clock. And if the Eagles get up 2 scores this time, Kansas City's in big, big trouble. But first team to 28 is going to win the game, but I have the Eagles winning 31-28.
Yeah, I didn't know that was your prediction, by the way, because I know you went on Fox this week and gave your prediction. I did my TV hit this morning. I said Chiefs 31-28, and they said, oh, you and Byars gave the same prediction except the other opposite team. So there you go.
That's it. It's going to be a good one. It's going to be good.
Yep. But, Keith, appreciate you. You the man. We'll talk soon, but thanks for coming on with us today.
Absolutely. I wish you guys well. Have a great show.
All right, good stuff. Again, College Football Hall of Famer, former Pro Bowl running back, 13-year NFL career, drafted by the Eagles, played the majority of his career for the Eagles, and he's picking his Eagles to beat the Chiefs coming up on Sunday. We'll wrap up the radio portion of the show when we come back. This is Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers. All right, and we are back. This is Off the Bench presented by United Dairy Farmers. I appreciate KB jumping on and hanging out with us for a bit. He played for Bill Parcells, played for Don Shula. He played for some really good coaches during this time. Buddy Ryan, he played for, obviously, Buddy Ryan with the Eagles. Played for Shula with the Dolphins, and then Bill Parcells. And Bill Belichick was actually, I meant to ask him about Bill Belichick's 24-year-old girlfriend. I meant to ask him, to ask him about that. But yeah, nonetheless. So
let me ask you, actually, real quick, before we get into this, because I know we're going to do it. If you had to rank, and I kind of asked Tim, but who would you say in your lifetime gave you the best halftime show at the Super Bowl? I'll go first to give you guys some time to think on it. But I think my favorite ever, and I think I'll go back to the Super Bowl against between the Patriots and the Falcons. I'm going to say Lady Gaga is my number one. I'm going to say my number one. My number two, and it's close, I like the Coldplay one. I know people it was Coldplay, Beyonce, and Bruno Mars, and it was the outdoor game. It was in San Francisco, maybe. Those are my top two. Those are the top two I remember. And that game was terrible, the one in San Francisco. I think that was the Broncos blowout. But those are my two favorite Super Bowl halftime shows.
A distant number one, Shakira J-Lo.
Oh, that's a good one.
Distant number one.
That's a good one.
I've rewatched that one more than any Super Bowl halftime ever.
I have as well. I like
the one we were in, though. Maybe that's
a good one, too.
I jarred a little bit because, it was really – I was at that one. It was unbelievable.
That one I don't remember as much because it's in the game that we love.
Right, exactly.
That's where it takes away from it. If it wasn't my Super Bowl, I would have loved it.
I wish they would do that more, and that's kind of the conversation around the halftime show here in New Orleans, not going Lil Wayne, going Kendrick Lamar, doing what they did in L.A. I thought that was really cool, getting people that have roots in the city, something that – because, like it or not, the Super Bowl is not – Eagles fans and Chiefs fans. Yeah. It's people from LA or New Orleans. It's very rich people, not necessarily fans of the game. And I think giving something that gives back to the city that's hosting is a cool way to go about it. I wish they'd lean into that more, but I think Kendrick's going to do a great job. I think this one might end up being up there with him and SZA. I think it's going to be a really good show.
Yeah, I think this one's going to be awesome. But again, that one with the Bengals and the Rams, that one will always be with Snoop and everyone and Dre. That was my all-time favorite Super Bowl one.
I forgot Kendrick was in that one as well. We were looking it up yesterday. He performed a song at that halftime show as well.
I think everyone did.
Yeah. That's not a bad way to handle a halftime show. You bring out 5 guys, have them all perform their best song.
Yeah.
I mean, it's got to be tough to, if you're a guy like Kendrick Lamar with that big of a discography, to whittle it down to, however much time they give you.
Oh, yeah.
Elliot, you asked Byars about, do the players go out and watch? I still remember Evan McPherson just getting a ton of crap coming out. I didn't blame him whatsoever. Like
he earned that. He earned that.
Yes, at that time he did earn it.
He still didn't miss. He never missed. He never missed that playoffs. Now he's missed since.
He's only missed since.
But yeah, if you're a kicker, if you're a guy on special teams, you can go out there and watch it.
All right, we close out the radio portion, a little Super Bowl buy or sell as we wrap up the week and wrap up the radio side. Let's just start with the Eagles and Saquon Barkley. Buy or sell Saquon Barkley rushing for over 100 yards on Sunday night?
I'm going to buy it. I'm responsibly wagered on over 40 yards in the first quarter, so I'm hoping he gets over 100.
Yeah.
I don't think he has a shot. The Eagles certainly don't have a shot. It's going to be a very boring Sunday if he's under 100 yards because the Chiefs would run them out of the building. So I'm going to take the over because I hope that it's an entertaining game.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a very boring Sunday. I'm going to take the under. I don't think the Eagles are going to be in this game. I got a weird feeling that this is the Chiefs' show. Patrick Mahomes has been not himself, I would say, for most of the year. He's going to be himself in this game. It's going to be the Patrick Mahomes and Chiefs show. They're going to win this game by double digits. I don't think Saquon's going to get the touches in the second half.
Wow.
Fair enough. On top of that, I think I saw or heard the other day that the Chiefs have gone like 13 or 15 straight games in the playoffs without giving up a 100-yard rusher. But probably because they dominate in the playoffs, they're usually ahead. Kind of going to what you guys are talking about. There are not a lot of opportunities for those opponents to be running the football, nonetheless. But I'm gonna go with the under as well. Look, Jalen Hurts played outstanding the last time these two teams played, and he didn't have Saquon. So I'm looking forward to see what Jalen Hurts shows up. So that's what we'll go to next. Buy or sell Jalen Hurts outperforming Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl again. Buy or sell?
I mean, I'm gonna sell this to high heaven. I mean, no chance. I think he wrung that towel out last time they went against each other, and they still couldn't get it done. So I think the Eagles' best chance is not putting the ball in Jalen Hurts' hands. So I don't think he's gonna throw enough to outplay Mahomes.
Yeah, I just said last buy or sell that it's going to be Mahomes' show. I'm riding with it. It's Mahomes' show. No, Jalen Hurts is not going to outplay him. It's going to be a bad game. I predict a very bad game by the Philadelphia Eagles. Patrick Mahomes runs away with another Super Bowl MVP.
Buy or sell Travis Kelce catching one or more touchdowns Sunday night.
I think it's going to be a huge Travis Kelce game. I'm buying this for sure. I'm taking all of his overs. Zach Ertz, who is a fine player, but not Travis Kelce, absolutely dominated the Eagles last week or 2 weeks ago in the NFC Championship game for over 100 yards. I believe he had over 10 catches as well. So I think Travis Kelce is absolutely going to feast against these Eagles linebackers in the underneath zones.
I don't know how many Super Bowls he has left. Certainly the Chiefs dynasty has to end soon. So I'm going to say in perhaps maybe one of his last Super Bowls with the Kansas City Chiefs, he's going to go out on top. I predict maybe 2 touchdowns for the big man.
If Vic Fangio doesn't change the defensive scheme up, then Kelce's going to go off.
Yep.
And if Vic Fangio changes the defensive scheme up, he might be killed by Philadelphia because that's the reason they're here.
Yeah.
So I think he's in a very, very tough spot going into this weekend.
Yeah, and again, Philly has struggled, I guess, reading the matchup graphic about these two, just talking about the fact that they've struggled against defending opposing teams' tight ends all season, and while they're going up against one of the best in this big game here coming up on Sunday night. Buy or sell this game ending in a controversial call? Will we be talking about some controversial call on Monday when we come back to the show? Buy or sell?
I'm going to sell it because I don't think it'll be close enough for there to be a controversial call that swings this game. Now, maybe one happens early that can, quote, swing momentum or something that everyone holds on to, but I think the Chiefs win this game relatively easy. I don't know if I'm going to go all the way to double digits, but I do think they take care of business, and it's convincing enough that no one call swings this.
I think there's going to be one call that it's not going to swing the game. I think the Chiefs are going to be the better team from the jump. I do think there's going to be one call, so I'm going to buy it. There's going to be one call that changes the momentum of the game. I think it's going to be close relatively early. Maybe we're talking about 10-7, 14-10 type of situation in the first half, and then the Chiefs get that one call, and it's a light switch, and it sort of propels them from there. I don't think this game is close. I think my final score prediction is going to be like 31-17, 31-14. I'm not, and maybe this is why I should bet on the Eagles, honestly. I'm so high on the Chiefs because every single time they're here, they win. Like, I have to pick them. So I'm going to say this isn't close. I'm going to buy that because I do think there's going to be one call we all talk about. Whether or not it changes the game, I don't know about that because I think the Chiefs are just better.
What are the chances that call is a poor spot on a tush push?
Could be.
I think it's about 95%.
Could be.
Yeah, and the controversial call, Bengals, Rams, controversial call, Chiefs and Eagles the first time. No controversial call last year because that game was not very close at the end. So when you look at this one, it's just going to come down to there'll be a controversial call if it's close down the stretch. By the way, are you guys just eliminating the Eagles because this is what the Chiefs do? Or is it from a matchup standpoint? I mean, because the Eagles have been the most dominant, consistent team. I mean, the Chiefs are 15-2, so maybe that's not fair to say. But out of the NFC, they've been the most consistent, dominating team, just bludgeoning teams, and especially throughout this playoffs, putting 50-plus up against Washington. Why are you not giving the Eagles a shot against the Chiefs, or is it simply just, hey, this is the Chiefs' playground and this is what they do?
I don't know if the Super Bowl's ever been won on the back of a running back. You're going to have, if they win this game, like Jacob said, it's going to be because of Saquon Barkley. I don't know if we've seen a game won in the Super Bowl, not at least in recent memory, where the running back was the sole reason why a team won the Super Bowl. Again, they've got a great defense, great offensive line. But offensively speaking, it's not going to be Jalen Hurts that wins in this game. The better quarterback usually walks away victorious. Patrick Mahomes is the better quarterback. Saquon Barkley is the better running back. This would just be an anomaly if he's the reason they won a Super Bowl. So that's why. If your whole offense is based on your running back, I have a hard time trusting you.
The highest percentage of the cap for a running back to win the Super Bowl since 2009 is 6.2% by Marshawn Lynch on the Seahawks. Saquon Barkley, obviously much higher than that. So that would do away with a lot of stats we use when talking about running backs if the Eagles are able to win the Super Bowl. We haven't seen it done before.
All right, well, then this is an easy one then. Buy or sell. And, I'm really curious to see what you're going to say. Buy or sell the Chiefs three-peating on Sunday night.
Bye. And I'm going to try to put enough money on the Chiefs where I won't be upset about it.
As much as you can.
Yeah.
As much as you can.
Because I will be upset about it.
As much as you can.
But I have to.
As much as you can. I actually won't say how much I have. Go Chiefs, go. I think the Chiefs are going to win this 3 in a row. First NFL team in history to win 3 championships in a row. So good for them. Again, say whatever you want about the refs. They've been really good. Patrick Mahomes is really good. Travis Kelce's really good. Their defense has been unbelievable. Andy Reid's unbelievable. Everything about their franchise over the past 10 years or so has been unbelievable. So good for them.
Casey, close this out. Buy or sell? The Chiefs three-peating on Sunday.
Yeah, they're three-peating, 100%. It's already been written.
Script is out.
Yeah, I mean, I made that prediction, January, whatever, that they were going to get the controversial call to win their third Super Bowl, stopping the tush push. I've already seen the script.
Every single time you doubt them, they win. I think we all said, throughout the course of their 15-win season, every step of the way we said, this Patrick Mahomes, he doesn't look like the old Patrick Mahomes. Man, these Chiefs, they don't score a lot of points. And what do, Justin? Every single week they win. Every single time. So I'm going to take them to win this game. I'm not going to think twice about it. If the Eagles win this game, don't get me wrong, I'll be a little bit happy because finally it seems like somebody was able to do it. I just have serious doubts that it's going to happen on the back of Saquon Barkley. We'll see.
Well, fair enough. Well, we're out of time on the radio side.
Before we get out of here, I know Elliot certainly has one. I know I have one. For the radio listeners, before we do this last segment, what's the favorite Super Bowl prop going into this weekend? Favorite one, just one.
Oh, boy.
My favorite one is Xavier Worthy over 5.5 rushing yards. On his snaps in the last 2 games, he's gone in motion 40% of the time. I think those jet sweeps are going to come into play. 5.5 rushing yards for Xavier Worthy.
Each team to score 1+ touchdown in each half.
Wow.
I've been on this for 2 weeks now, and I don't understand how it's even money. Each team to score 1 touchdown in each half. So that's, at 7-7 at halftime, 14-4. I mean, there's endless possibilities of how this can happen. I'm going to take that. If you go to any of the sports books, I know FanDuel has it. I don't know about I think DraftKings has it. I don't know about the rest of them. But it's each team to score 1+ touchdown each half.
So there's another one like that I love that I usually do like every week. I always put a couple dollars on it, if not more, just depending on how I feel about the game. My favorite one is always each team to score a touchdown and a field goal in each half. The touchdown, and like that just seems so simple, right? Like, and it's amazing. Vegas they win every single time, but it just seems like that's such an easy, low-hanging fruit bet to make. Each team to score a touchdown and a field goal in each half. I think that I'm going to use that one for this weekend. But I do like a simple one of obviously Travis Kelce at 2+ touchdowns on Sunday. I'm going to say he gets a 2 on Sunday.
I take it every Super Bowl. I took it again this year, over 2.5 players to throw a pass.
Love it.
You always got to ring out the towel on the trick plays in the Super Bowl, and it's just one more guy.
Love it. I bet Saquon throws a touchdown in this game.
Ooh.
I don't know what the odds on that. If I
2
can find
Jalen
that.
Hurts?
2 Jalen Hurts, yeah.
Would be fun.
Wow.
Would be good.
Wow.
Casey, Casey, you're not betting anymore though, really. You're not going to bet on the biggest.
No, he's got to eat lunch.
No, I got to eat lunch. I mean, I also have a baby on the way.
You're not going to bet on the biggest betting game of the year.
I might put a little money on the Eagles, but that's
on the
probably
Eagles.
Whoa!
I thought you said you want to win money.
I do, but
That's
I
how
can't
you
bet
win
on
money.
Kansas City. I just can't. I can't bet on Kansas City.
Sad.
All right, well, we're done on the radio side. We'll continue on Chatterbox on YouTube. But until Monday, this has been Off the Bench presented by United Dairy Farmers. Oh, grow up.
We got a Telestrator. Casey got a Telestrator, and he's going crazy.
Yeah,
That's why you've been so quiet over there today.
I got super
Who drew
excited
that?
over the-
That was Casey.
No, it was Jacob.
I didn't even see what happened. What
He
did I
didn't
miss?
tell me that it was on live.
That was awesome.
So we're going to cut out this last segment once we get done here.
Wait, what was it?
He drew a wiener, okay,
Oh.
with some testicles underneath. All right, he
Okay,
did that.
hold on. I'm going to defend myself here. Casey sends me a Telestrator link. Shouldn't just automatically go over the live.
Oh, Casey.
That seems like a layup.
You looked up there and you're like, where is it?
You act like those TVs don't switch 3 times a show.
They switch 5 times a show, Casey, and that one goes dark half the time. We don't know where we're supposed to look. I got to go back and look what I missed. I didn't even see you do this.
Well, here, look.
No.
We don't need the replay. We don't need the replay.
No. We're not gonna replay. I'm just gonna do like a little like.
Wow, look at that.
Look at that.
Wow.
That's what Jacob meant to draw.
Wow. Jeez, Casey. Setting me up for failure. I'm sweating now.
So Jacob doesn't like when I make little silly jokes on this show.
I hated that went live.
So what's gonna happen now is I'm gonna just draw whenever you're talking.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm just gonna draw. I'm gonna just so when we clip this show later,
It's just gonna
I'm
be
just
unusable.
I'm just gonna just scribble all over it.
Kirby's going to go back to clip this show, and it's just going to be unusable now because it's just going to be drawing mustaches on Kinner. And do we pick someone in the chat every day that gets Telestrator capabilities?
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not.
We just give it to Mark Fetters on like a Friday.
No.
One of the other cool things too, though, was like that link. It doesn't just. It's not just Telestrator either. You could also do like the soundboard, so everyone could have access to soundboard. So I might just add back all those cool little funky sounds, and maybe I'll add a whistle for you to just press on your own, and
So that I
Ooh, look
don't
at this behind the
blow
curtain
out,
stuff.
blow
I think
out
that's
the
a very cool
eardrums of the viewers.
yeah. It was just
You know, I didn't think about it when I left yesterday. I walked out into that open space where everybody is. There's no way in hell they didn't just absolutely hear that plain as day.
Yeah, this room's not soundproofed at all.
Not a little bit.
Not at all.
Not even a little bit.
It's real loud out there.
Yeah, but either way. Hey, what time we got? Oh, 11:46. Hey, we didn't talk NBA.
We
in
did
the
not
show.
talk NBA.
We usually
LeBron.
don't.
How about LeBron? Now the oldest player to ever score 40 points, and he's also the youngest player to ever score 40 points.
Wow, I have another LeBron stat for you.
By the way, had 17 rebounds in his 40-point double-double yesterday.
Yeah, he's an absolute freak. LeBron James averaged 27, 7, and 7 when Pat Surtain Sr. made his first Pro Bowl. LeBron James currently averages 24, 8, and 9. Pat Surtain Jr. just won Defensive Player of the Year.
Unreal, dude.
So, yeah.
I'll never understand.
Jordan was flipping burgers at this point.
I'll never understand how Michael Jordan gets that debate. Literally the only thing Michael Jordan is better than LeBron at is championships. Michael Jordan is not the best player to ever have, he doesn't have the most championships. If that's the case, Bill would have 1 million of them. So it doesn't even matter. It's a moot point.
I like Elliot the best when we start talking about LeBron.
We all don't agree on much. We're all on the same page on this.
I love it. I love it.
LeBron James is the greatest athlete to ever walk the planet, and I will stand by that. I will stand by it until the day I die. LeBron James is the greatest athlete to ever grace this planet.
Elliot can confirm this. I think one of the first questions I asked in one of my first days here was, where are you guys at on LeBron Jordan? Because joining a sports media company that does a show, I felt like we were going to have that debate fairly often.
Yeah.
Everyone, more or less, in this office that's willing to talk about it is on LeBron's side, which really hurts me because it's one of my favorite things in the world to do is argue LeBron and Jordan. So that's why I have to take it out on the chat more often than
There's not a single stat that backs Jordan except for championships, which, again, he's not the best at.
This is the best segment we've ever done.
Like, you can say whatever you want, but LeBron's still doing this at he's going to do it at age 50. Luka's going to play his entire career, win 3 championships with the Lakers. LeBron will still be playing and will still be a top 5 player in the league. LeBron should have won the MVP, I want to say 15 times, maybe more. He should win it this year.
There's only 2 players to average 27, 7, and 7 for their entire career. It's LeBron and Luka.
Unbelievable. Is that right?
Yeah.
And that's funny. I wonder what it would be like if they played together. Oh, wait.
We'll see. Speaking of them playing together, or I guess not playing together, was UC affected by the college basketball schedule shakeup, or were they always on ESPN2? Because they moved a lot of college basketball games on Saturday to put the Lakers game on ESPN. Luka's not playing till Monday. So they just put the old Lakers without Anthony Davis on Saturday. They moved a lot of games around. I didn't know if that affected UC or not, but it moved a couple SEC games off ESPN.
I don't think it did, but I could be wrong. So who knows?
A lot of people are really upset about that.
No, by the way, the MJ last thing LeBron MJ debate. I've always simplified it to this: when you're playing, 2K or any of the video games, and you go to create a player, are you going to create a 6'6" scoring guard that averages 28 points a game and is very good at defense, or are you going to create a guy that's 7 foot tall that can score, is the best scorer, the best rebounder, the best passer, and one of the best defenders, shot blocker, can guard all 5 positions? I think this one's easy. I don't know why we overcomplicate this. I think if me as 5'5",
he won championships.
And and
so did Russell,
and more.
Yeah, Russell won more. It's the only thing.
Yeah, but either way,
if Jordan won 10 rings, I would give it to Jordan. But
Jordan won a couple playoff series without Pippen. I'd open the conversation a little bit.
Yeah, actually, Russell I think won 11. So if he won 12,
when LeBron leaves, the Cavs are literally like borderline college basketball level caliber bad. I mean, it's bad. When MJ left, they made the playoffs and Pippen was leading the way, nonetheless. But hey,
create a player argument too. LeBron James is my road to glory character in NCAA football. He's a 6'7" wide receiver, 220 pounds. He's a monster.
It's the other part. He would have been a Hall of Fame tight end if he went to the NFL. Hall of Fame tight end. Also, Kinner, the chat's making jokes about your blinds again. What's going on with the blinds?
The blinds are rough.
When the heater comes on, it blows them around, and then they get stuck behind the bobblehead. We've come too far into the show now. Moving it wouldn't make a difference.
Don't fix them.
I will add that to my pre-show checklist when I'm in the studio to make sure that the blinds are checked. With that, by the way, Cleveland Cavaliers. That move yesterday, they get Hunter. Yeah. Charles Barkley said last night they're the favorites to come out of the East. Fix, please. Yeah, see, look at that. The Telestrator. Oh, it had a hard right. There we go.
That's impressive, Casey.
Yeah, I'm excited for that.
These capabilities are fun.
Anyways, but anything else we close out today?
Yeah, we can close out. I was thinking about what was I was
Box lunch on the horizon.
I had something in. Hold on, maybe I thought I had something of relevance in headline. I had one notable headline thing. What did I have? Hold on. Stay with me.
You're good.
I saw this last night. Fairfield. Did you see that Fairfield shot? Again, I don't care. Like college basketball, this is where college basketball starts to take over. Immediately on Monday, college basketball takes the forefront of the sports world for the next month and a half. But the Fairfield shot yesterday to win. I think they got the combine. They were playing Marist. They were playing Marist, and 56-56 up until he hit a buzzer beater from 3/4 of the court. Unbelievable.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. There was another. Nope, I can't find it. But yeah, I was trying to find the shot to send to Casey, but I can't. I don't have it saved at the top here. Jake, I don't know if you guys saw this too. On3 Recruits put this out that these are the top asks from recruits. What do you think recruits when they're sitting down with NIL? What do you think they're asking for? Now, it's easy to just say money, but money is actually not at the top of the money's just a given. That's just the starting block, but everyone's getting offered money. So what can these collectives do to sweeten the pot a little bit? What do you think some of the top things that these recruits are asking for out on the NIL trail?
It's got to be houses and cars, right? Probably cars one, maybe, or would houses be one? I would guess those are the top two, though.
Yeah.
Cars. Cars and houses are 1 and 2. 3 and 4, though, are surprising.
Okay.
Nothing of this is surprising. These are all things we would want. But the chartered flights is number 3.
So are they not traveling with the team to games? Is that the ask? Or is this like a free time type of thing?
Free time type of thing.
Okay.
Now, I say that I have a hard time imagining that individual players are just flying themselves to games. But
that's what I mean. That's why I was so taken aback. But I guess the fact that I could believe it leads you. I mean, that's where we're at in college football right now.
But like, I'm assuming they get X amount of hours of chartered flights for friends and family. And a lot of recruits use the chartered flights to be able to fly
for games and stuff.
Games, yeah,
that makes sense. That's a good ask. Kudos to them.
The last one is the most logical. I think that this is smart. I think they want land. They want land.
That's an agent ask. There's no 18-year-old kid asking for land, right?
That's the most mature ask of anything. You need land. You need property.
That's an agent ask, I feel like. But yeah, no, that's certainly smart. If these players are going to school at, SMU or Texas, and you get a lot of land in Dallas or Austin, that's a hell of a way to make some money on top of the, whatever NIL is coming for you. So yeah, that's really cool. But this wasn't what it's supposed to be. What NIL was supposed to be is what Arch Manning's doing, and it's throwing a football into a massive Red Bull can and getting paid a couple $1 million for it. It wasn't flights and cars to come play for your school. This was never what it was meant to be, and it's really a shame that we've gotten this big because you can't reel it back. You really can't without doing away with it as an entirety and starting from scratch, which will never happen. So we're in a tough spot right now in college football, college sports as a whole.
Well, you want to know one of the reasons that Juan Soto left the Yankees too? Thinking I'm comparing, there's a weird jump, but it ties in. One of the reasons he also got, upset with the Yankees is because they wouldn't give him a suite for his family.
Yeah. Yeah.
So even at the professional level, they're wanting those perks. Now that ties into the team. That one makes sense. But the cars, houses, charter flights, and land for NIL, these are the most popular asks by these recruits when it comes to their NIL conversations. So either way. Here's a trade scenario that came out for Cleveland, by the way, for old Myles Garrett.
Love it.
I still don't think he's going anywhere. I saw David Njoku pleading with him yesterday to stay.
Yeah,
we'll see. David Njoku, I'm questioning. Good for him. He's defending, the land. He wants, whatever. But the Rams. This involves the Rams and the Browns. It kind of takes care of a couple things. It provides the Browns with the quarterback, and it provides the Rams with a great defensive player, and it gets the Browns a first-round pick. So the Browns would receive Matthew Stafford and a 26th first-round pick, and the Rams would receive Myles Garrett and a third-round pick. What do we think about that one?
I don't think that's terrible.
No.
The Rams would probably be pretty interested in Myles Garrett in terms of pairing him with Jared Verse, and you have a rookie contract at the other edge. I think that would make a lot of sense for both sides. I don't know
but why would
the Browns want Stafford? I guess.
Yeah, I don't get it.
While trading away Garrett. Well,
so
then you're all of a sudden not rebuilding.
Well, at that point, look, they're going to get a veteran quarterback no matter what this year, so he would still check that box off. But if you're Myles Garrett, you want to leave because you don't like what's at quarterback. Myles Garrett may like that guy at quarterback, but he can't get that guy at quarterback unless he's the one being shipped off.
Yeah. And then are the Rams, who's playing quarterback for the Rams? Are the Rams contenders without Stafford? I think that Rams conversation is getting really interesting this offseason, especially after Kelly Stafford requested a trade for her husband yesterday. So that's going to be really interesting to follow this offseason because I was pretty shocked with how that Cooper Kupp thing transpired. Do you think that was a conversation between the front office and Cooper Kupp to let him announce that, or do you think he took that upon himself once he found out?
I think he took that upon himself.
I agree. I would imagine the Rams were not very happy with how that cookie crumbled. So I don't know how this offseason is going to go. I think it could end up being, obviously we've talked about how important it is in Cincinnati, how many big pieces are moving here with our Bengals, but I think league-wide, this could be one of the most interesting offseasons of all time, especially with the movement potentially in the draft, the big-name coaches that have been hired. I think it's going to be a really, really exciting NFL offseason.
Oh, this move's not happening. I just keep seeing all these random trade scenarios that are going out there, and I just kind of roll my eyes at most of them. This one semi-caught my attention, but it doesn't make sense. If you're moving on from Garrett, you're entering rebuild mode.
Matthew's wife did say he was interested in being traded.
But again, I don't know. We'll see.
Malik Neighbors has been working hard to try to get Stafford to New York. I think that'd be a pretty interesting combo there with Neighbors and Stafford, and he's also been tweeting at Cooper Kupp as well. So if they were somehow able to get both of them, maybe trading their high draft pick for both of those guys, that would be an interesting move for the Giants. They're a team that I have a little bit of a different take than most people. I think they're a little closer than a lot of people think. And with some of the pieces they have. So I would love to see Stafford go there if I could pick right now.
Garrett Wilson's still going to request a trade, you think?
I think it comes down to what they do at quarterback. Yeah. If they keep Rodgers, I would assume so. If they enter a pseudo rebuild, ironically enough, I think he stays around.
Yeah, and by the way, if the Giants all of a sudden take a step forward and all of a sudden the Cowboys, who thought they had it figured out, they got their quarterback, they had their wide receiver, and now all of a sudden you have an expensive quarterback, an expensive wide receiver, and that would be the worst team in that division if the Giants make major moves this offseason. So,
absolutely.
But yeah, Washington's going to make – I don't know. I learned my lesson with the Texans. I thought the sky was the limit for the Texans last year or this year. And look, they still won the division. They still made the playoffs. They won a playoff game. But Washington could hit that same that wall that we saw with the Texans. Do you think that they're different than the Texans? Is there a chance that they actually do take that next step next year?
I don't know what held the Texans back, I guess, is what I'm.
Well, you were down on them coming in, though. You kind of expected that.
Right, but I mean, in the sense of the offense taking a step back, I didn't expect it to look like what it did. I mean, C.J. Stroud was nowhere near what he was 2 years ago. I don't think Jaden Daniels will necessarily take that step back. I don't know what happened with Bobby Slowick to go from getting head coaching interviews 2 years ago to getting fired this year. So I think it comes down, and I've said this about the Commanders time and time again, I think Jaden Daniels' success and the Commanders' success comes down more to Cliff Kingsbury than anyone wants to admit. So the fact that he's coming back to be the OC next year, I would have said the same thing about Houston if you asked me this time last year about Slowick, but I think they're going to be more than okay until they have to make some coaching changes at the coordinator positions. Defensively, they're always going to be fine because Dan Quinn can take that side of the ball if he needs to, but I think Cliff Kingsbury is a much bigger piece of that team's success than anyone wants to admit right now.
All right, I'm out. You guys have anything to close out?
That's it.
Box lunch coming up.
Box lunch.
There you go. Thank you, guys. We'll see you on Monday.
Adios.